Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me again on my twice a week mental health live stream. This is Dr. Stephen Walker, licensed psychologist, coming at you live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We do these mental health live streams every twice a week to talk about your mental health, your mental illness, whatever's going on in your mind, in your life, as a way to normalize conversations about mental health, because we're not talking about that enough. We're not open as a society dealing with the issues that we have in our mind. We're not dealing with the issues we have in our past. We're not dealing with issues we have at all a lot of times, and they're piling up and they're infecting our relationships. They're preventing us from achieving our potential. They're preventing us from finding more peace, more balance, more peace of mind. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about how to achieve more potential. So remember, before we get started, hey, Samantha, how are you? Thanks for joining. Please share this if you're watching this live. Before I get started on how to achieve more potential, I want you guys to remember one thing. This is a mental health live stream for you. This is a mental health live stream for you to work on your issues, to talk about whatever's on your mind. I start with a topic. That topic is just something I'm throwing out there to get a discussion going about. But if somebody's struggling with something, if somebody's feeling, depressed or down or whatever, please shoot me a question. Please interact with me, because these mental health live streams are for you to work on your mental health. Remember, if I was a physician and if this was about working on your physical health, people would be more than happy to talk about their physical health. People would be more than happy to talk about what's on their mind. Hey, Penny, how are you? Thanks for logging on. And would have no issue with that. But when you add mental health instead of physical health, now all of a sudden it's taboo. Oh, mental health. What are you talking about? That's something that I don't want to talk to anybody about. And that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem of why we have the polarized society we have, where people are trying to fit themselves into whatever they've learned from the past about who they are. So let's get into that a little bit. How to achieve more potential? How do we hit our goals? How do we feel as though we are maximizing our gifts, our whatever we have to offer the world? So let's break it down in terms of what is potential. What does that concept mean, to achieve more potential? Hey, Josie, how are you? Jersey City, beautiful. This is why I'm doing it earlier, to try to pull in more people from the East Coast. So hey, Josie, please share this on your timeline. Please be proud of the fact that you're working on your mental health. There's nothing wrong with that. We need to be more open about what's on our mind, what's affecting us negatively. So if you're new to the live stream, ask me any question you want. If you're struggling with something, if there's something going on in your life, it doesn't have to be about the topic. The topic is there just to kind of get the show rolling, and then people can chime in and talk about whatever's on their mind. And by the way, if you're catching this after I post it on YouTube, please check out the other videos I have up there. I have a lot of content. I started 4 or 5 years ago, took a few years off because I had a son who, anybody who has a kid knows you're not going to have much available time. So now I'm back, but there's a lot of content on there. There are a lot of things on there that you might hear other people have been talking about that, wait a second, he was talking about that 4 years ago or 10 years ago. So please feel free to check out some of the other, hey, Kat, how are you? Good to see you. Good to have you back. Please check out some of the other videos on my YouTube channel. Okay, so let's talk about how to achieve more potential. So one of the things I work with people on is clearing up roadblocks to them, clearing up things in their mind. And by the way, Kat, we hope things are settling for you. Again, if you whatever's going on, Kat, please feel free to talk about how things are going. And Kat, if you ever wanted to come on and do a little bit of an interview, feel free to shoot me a text, and we can coordinate that. But one of the things a psychologist or a mental health person will help you do is figure out, what is holding me back? I was talking to a gentleman today from Estonia about some of the struggles he's going through, and I was trying to help raise his awareness. He was waiting for the behavioral thing. So he was saying, well, if I can get more active, if I can do more things, then I'll feel better about myself inside. And that's true. That's one way to look at it. That's what behaviorism focuses on. Work on changing your behaviors, and that'll change how you think and feel. The problem with that is that a lot of times people don't even get to that point. People don't get to the point of changing their behavior because there are internal dynamics that are affecting them and that are causing them to not even feel that they can change their behavior. Okay, so let me just hit the pause button for a second. So Kat is saying, I'm on the verge of being inpatient again. Well, Kat, that's a scary thought. That's something that I know isn't something you want to deal with and something you want to have to accept that might be necessary. But Kat, if you're feeling that you can't manage a lot of what you've talked about on this show before, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having to go into inpatient again. If you had a physical illness, Kat, you would not be ashamed of saying, well, I may need to step up my care here and get myself into a place where I can get the help I need. There's nothing wrong if you're feeling like you need to go into inpatient again. I know you might be saying, well, dude, that's easy for you to say because you've never been in an inpatient psychiatric unit, or you don't have to deal with what I have to deal with. Very true. But Kat, I've worked in many of them. I've worked in many psychiatric inpatient units. I've worked in prisons. I've worked in multiple clinical settings. So I know what you're saying. I do, in a sense that you don't want to go in there. But Kat, it's better to get yourself into a situation where you can get the help you need in order to get the control back that you need. It's okay of my control. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you feel you need the added support, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Remember, Kat, these issues that you have were not something you chose. You did not choose the abuse you went through as a child. You're dealing with it now, but there's nothing wrong with that. And if you feel the need for another inpatient stint, I'm hoping that you have some sort of health care, some sort of way to offset that. I don't know if you're on Medicare or Medicaid, or you've got some plan that affords you that, but you should do it because it's better that you continue working on it, get yourself stabilized, and then come back out and resume your treatment. Nothing to be ashamed of, sister. If I was in the beginning of all this COVID stuff, I was very, very sick in all of March and April. Well, not all of April, but most of March into April. And I had never been to an emergency room in my entire life. I mean, since I fractured my arm when I was a kid and the bone shot out from it. So I had no shame. It was scary. I mean, I was one of those people who packed his bag, never knowing if he was going to see his wife and son again. Very emotional. But there was no shame in having to go back and go to the hospital, Kat. You should not, whatever's preventing you from doing it, you should do it. Kat's saying it's out of my control, but I know my doctor wouldn't consider this unless it's necessary. Yes, Kat, you're right. And if you're feeling out of control, please remember, Kat, you did not ask for these emotional wounds. Okay, sister, you did not ask for all of this crap that you have to deal with psychologically and emotionally. This was thrust upon you. Okay, so try if you can to just say to yourself things like, I can deal with this. I can handle this. I got to do this. I got to get these alters under control. I've got to work this out. I got to figure out what my medication is. I've got to do this. Okay, so let us know how things are going. I'll be on again on Tuesday. If I don't see you then, I'll assume that you're getting the help you need, and we'll be here waiting for you to come out. Okay, Kat. So let me know how things are going, please, because I know it must be difficult dealing with what you're dealing with. Okay, so we all feel for you, sister. But remember, it's not your fault that you may need to be hospitalized again, Kat. It's not. So let me just get to some other questions. I learned a lot from you, Doctor. Thank you, Josie. I appreciate that. I learn a lot from everybody I work with too. Juan is saying, do addictions hurt the ability to be successful? Like, is there a good addiction, bro? Yeah, that's a great question. Kat is saying, I can't stay on a ward. The waiting is them getting me a private room and staff to watch me. Okay. Well then, Kat, you gotta just wait that one out. You gotta just remind yourself that there's a solid cat in amongst all those altars that can regulate that, can wait patiently for that. But if you are feeling shaky, if you are feeling like things are coming a little, unglued or shaky for you, call 911. Call your psychologist. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why they're there. Okay. So Juan, yeah, do addictions hurt the ability to be successful? Is there a good addiction? That's a good question, brother. What I would say to that is that addiction, when you're addicted to something, it's gone too far. When you need something in order to work or to feel up, or like tonight, if I'm taking shots of tequila because that's the only thing that relaxes me, that's an issue. When you become, what many people don't realize is that in the DSM, the book of mental health disorders, there's no actual diagnosis for alcoholism or something like that. It's addiction. You get dependency, or there are two categories for it. So you either become dependent or you're abusing it, and there are different specifiers for that. So Juan, yeah, man. Absolutely, addictions can hurt the ability to be successful if you're addicted to something that's impeding your ability to do what you need to do. Now, you could be addicted to success. You could be addicted to winning. That would be something you could leverage and maximize to your ability. But the problem is when something becomes an addiction, by definition, you need that in order to do something else. And that's where the problem comes in, is when you become dependent on something. Now, is all dependency bad? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, there's a certain amount of dependency that is healthy, but when you're addicted to something, then you begin to need it in order to feel good about yourself. So when you look at it in terms of achieving more potential, if I need to achieve my potential to feel better about myself, that's a problem too, people. That's a problem, because if I need an external validator to feel good about myself inside, that's a little shaky, because what happens then is what happens when I don't have that. That's called, Juan saying, habits and addiction are confusing. Absolutely. When you need an external thing to validate your internal sense of who you are, that's called external locus of control. So there's internal locus of control and external locus of control. External locus of control is when you need something external to yourself to feel in control, to feel validated, to feel good about yourself. Now, do we all need a certain amount of a certain degree of external locus of control? Absolutely. Absolutely. The problem is, so then there's internal locus of control. Internal locus of control is when you are more driven from within you. Your sense of control and your sense of efficacy, effectiveness is generated from within you, from what you're saying to yourself, how you're motivating yourself. And that's one of the keys to achieving more potential, people, is developing more of an internal locus of control, an internal ability to regulate how the external world affects you. That's one of the main things that prevents people from achieving more potential. So let me hit the pause button again and tune back into Kat. Let me see here. So there's a nurse here at my house now so far that's working. So there's, okay, excellent, Kat. You got some support there. Beautiful, beautiful, Kat. Nothing wrong with that, Kat. Remember, I know we've stigmatized the word victim in our culture by people who have no clue what it's like to work with victims. So you got all these people out there, all these, mental health people out there on the internet with no training and no license telling you, oh, don't be a victim, don't be a victim, when they have no clue what working with a victim is. Kat, my sister, you were a victim of abuse. Now, staying a victim's another thing. I don't think you're doing that because you're working on it. But the fact that you need a nurse there, you may have to be hospitalized again. Nothing wrong with that, sister. You didn't ask for any of this. You didn't ask for any of these emotional wounds that are still healing, okay? None of them. So we need to take it easy on Kat. Kat needs to say to herself tonight, it's okay. Remember we talked about the it's okay pill? The it's okay pill is Kat saying to herself, it's okay that I may have to be admitted again. I didn't ask for any of this. It's okay that I'm still trying to heal, and I'm going to keep working on it, Okay, Kat? So we're all there for you. We're all hoping that, you can get the help you need and then move on into more and more levels of healing. So Juan is saying external locus is sort of a social thing, right? Absolutely. Absolutely, Juan. Let's take, for instance, what I do for a living, for work, my passion, my love of trying to help people heal their emotional wounds. Suppose I needed all my patients to tell me, damn, Dr. Walker, you're the best, man. I've never worked with somebody like you. You are just fantastic, man. I'd be lost without you. Suppose I needed that in order to feel effective, in order to feel like I'm hitting my potential. You see the problem right there. What happens when I don't get it? What happens when Juan's not one of my client patients, but let's say Juan is working with me and he's like, dude, you're a freak, man. I can't believe I even waste my time with you. Then my confidence bottoms out. And that's the danger of external locus of control. External locus of control gives your sense of control to things external to you. And that's what you see on social media all the time. People trolling people. And I get that. I get idiots like that. Excuse my adjective. Well, is that an adjective? Noun, whatever. But and sometimes I respond and sometimes I don't. If they're attacking me, I don't respond. If they're attacking people I work with, that's a whole different story. So, but the external locus of control that a lot of people rely on is what prevents them from achieving more potential, because they're constantly waiting for something outside of them to say, oh, you're ready to do this now. Or they're looking for signs. Oh, that's a sign that I'm supposed to be doing this. And the more we do that, the more and more we're pushing our potential further and further out, because we're not focusing on that internal sense of what drives us forward. Now, am I saying, no external locus of control is realistic? Of course not. It's about balance. So Diego, hey Diego, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Thanks for logging on. I hope this new time I had kind of bummed me out a little bit. Some people who had been following the show for a while aren't able to log on to the earlier time. So, I'm torn, but the new time is just works a little bit better. I hope people can log on, but Diego's been with us for a while. So Doc, good evening. Your description of need made sense. I don't need alcohol, but I have uneasy emotions and I really can't put my finger on what I feel. I don't drink every day, but it's what keeps that inner feeling. So I don't have that locus of control. But I do binge. So I hear what you're saying, Juan. I'm sorry, Diego. And, Diego has been open about some of his struggles that are emanating from his service to our country and then being a police officer, and how that trauma, maybe that unworked on trauma, is affecting his need for alcohol. Like he said, uneasy feelings. Well, again, Diego, you got to start exposing yourself to those uneasy feelings. You've got to start getting into a therapeutic environment where you can start talking about those uneasy feelings, because uneasy feelings are one of the things that drive addiction. People do not like feeling uneasy. People do not like feeling those negative thoughts and emotions, which brings me to the third point about how to achieve more potential. You got to deal with your negative emotions. You've got to work on those doubts, those insecurities, those fears, that fear of disappointment, that fear of failure. All of that needs to be worked on. Watching podcasts, watching YouTube videos, reading books, that's all good. But that's surface level stuff that isn't getting to that deeper stuff about fear of failure. Where did you learn that? Perfectionism. Where did you learn that failure is something to fear? Where did you pick that up? And one of the things that affects people's potential, their ability to achieve more potential, is the belief that if they fail, that's catastrophic. They can't handle that. That's going to confirm to them what they've always known, which is that they are a failure, that they cannot do these things that they've always wanted to do. That is one of the main things that is going to affect our ability to believe in who we are, to believe that we are capable of doing things that we want to do. We can't allow the fear of failure to prevent us from doing the work we need to do. We can't do it because if you allow the fear of failure to hold you back, then you're going to never achieve what you want because you're going to be constantly afraid that you're not going to achieve what you're going to achieve. And then you set up this loop, this feedback loop where you don't want to achieve, you're afraid to achieve what you want to achieve. So then you don't achieve it. And then that comes up on the other side of realizing, oh my God, I'm not going to achieve what I want to achieve. And then you're stuck in this loop. So the one thing or not one thing, but one of the main things I try to work with people on is their ability to believe that they can handle disappointment. Now, these are not easy concepts to just, get overnight. You're not going to get over this in 1 or 2 nights. You've got to find yourself in a situation where you can work through what is preventing you from believing in yourself. It's not going to be solved simply by just, focus only on the positive and live your best self. And all of these are great messages. But the problem is that there's an underlying amount of beliefs and feelings that most people aren't dealing with. Why? Because we live in a culture that doesn't allow people to deal with their negativity. A lot of times it's stigmatized. A lot of times people are ashamed that they're affected by that. A lot of times people are telling themselves over and over that, I'm a loser, or I'm not going to make it, or people are going to judge me, or I can't handle this, or I can't handle that. And the problem is, people, until you get into that deeper pool of negative thoughts and emotions that was conditioned into you, you're never going to feel as though you're able to get to that higher level. Now, does that mean everybody needs to work through some of those deeper fears and emotions? Probably not. A lot of it depends on the trauma you've been through. Remember, there are degrees of trauma. So achieving more potential, achieving more of what you want out of life, a lot of times is being affected by unworked on, unhealed emotional wounds, things within your past that you haven't dealt with, things that are holding you back. I often say to my clients, talking about Thomas Edison, I would have known who his parents were, meaning like what his little Tommy Edison was getting, because as you all know, Thomas Edison's famous quote is, when he failed multiple times to invent the light bulb, or not invent, but perfect the light bulb. And remember, when Edison failed, there was no Home Depot, there was no Amazon, there was no hardware store. It was build everything from scratch again a lot of times. But his famous quote is, he looked at the reporter interviewing him, failed? I learned 100 ways, or however many times I learned 100 ways it didn't work. So that was his way of looking at failure. He saw failure as a necessary component to success. Now, who knows what where he picked that up? Or maybe he developed that on his own. Doubtful, but who knows? That a lot of times is what is affecting the majority of people who are not hitting their potential. What they learned early on about failure, what they learned early on about their ability to handle failure. That is one of the main things I see holding people back, as they come to me and we're working on things and they're not even aware of the fact that, oh, wow, you mean the fact that my father or my parents expected me to be perfect is affecting my ability to be successful? Yeah, because if you grew up in an environment where you were expected to be perfect, then you have no idea of how to deal with imperfection. You think that perfection is attainable, and that if you're not perfect, then there's no point in doing anything. There's no point in even trying, because what happens is perfectionism is one of the root causes of failure, of not achieving your potential. Why? Not what you might think. It's not because not what you might think, but people may think that perfection is a good thing to have if you want to achieve your potential. Now, remember, there's a difference between perfection and excellence, okay? That's a whole nother conversation. But what perfectionism does is it sets people up with this delusional belief, this false belief that perfection is attainable. Perfection is not attainable, people. There's no way you're ever going to achieve perfection. The more you make perfection your goal, your ideal, that's how you're going to always be chasing a mirage. So one of the things that will absolutely affect your ability to achieve more potential is this idea that once you achieve perfection, once you achieve your potential, then you're going to feel perfect and you're not going to have any problems and everything's going to be great. And you're never going to be bummed out, and that is not going to happen. So if you're a perfectionist, and a lot of people say, oh yeah, I'm a perfectionist, and they identify as a perfectionist, I encourage you to see what shadows with that. Like they found in a study about a year and a half ago that came out, and they interviewed people who were perfectionists, and they also identified as depressed. They also identified themselves as experiencing unfulfillment. Why? Because along with the need for perfection comes the knowledge that I'm never going to be perfect. I'm never going to be able to be perfect. That is what holds people back. Perfection is the idea that you can live a life free of negativity. And that is a complete fallacy. It's spoon-fed to us in our culture by pharmaceutical companies, advertising agencies. Get more hair, get perfect, have the perfect life, and that it's just not attainable. The idea, I think this was in Star Wars, or a famous Yoda quote, you either do or you don't do. There is no try. Biggest load of crap I've ever heard in my life, okay? Because in order to do anything, in order to achieve anything, you have to try, okay? You have to try. There is nothing wrong with trying. I try to orient a lot of my client patients to focus on how hard you're trying, not focusing on being the best. The best is a myth. Okay, the best is a fallacy. You will never, ever, ever feel that you are the best and be able to sustain that. You will always be it'll always be a flee. Oh, okay, I'm the best. I'm the best. And always be looking for the next thing. So let's go back a little bit here. The main impediment to achieving more potential, or not impediment, the main impediments are unworked out wounds, unworked on beliefs, and things within you that are causing you to feel that you can't do it. Again, the gentleman I was working with today, he genuinely wants a better life for himself, but because he's looking at the future as something that will never happen, that affects his motivation in the moment. So he's trying to do tasks he needs to get done, but what's going on in his mind is, oh, it's not going to work out. You're not going to be able to do X, Y, Z. What's the point of doing that? And then he's wondering why he's not motivated. So yes, good people, we need to focus on things within us that are preventing us from believing in what we can achieve. And a lot of that is the C word, conditioning, okay? A lot of times we are conditioned to believe things about ourselves that we're not even aware are affecting us. So one is saying, I work with a lady who told her kids never to try, but to do. I was like, poor little kids. Yeah, exactly. There is you either do or you don't do. There is no try. That's my second, one of my second least favorites, or you know what I mean. But one of my even more not favorite colloquial little jargons is this idea of forgiving and forgetting. Whoever came up with that, forgive and forget, I'd like to chat with them, because that, to me, and in the work I've done, I've seen that impede people's ability to forgive over and over and over, with this idea that in order to forgive, I have to forget. Now, people, good people, you are never going to forget that somebody has hurt you, that somebody has caused you pain. Exactly. Sam is saying there's no forgetting. You have to accept that, but that doesn't mean you can't forgive them. Forgiveness is a whole nother topic. So we can talk more about that on another live stream. But what I'm trying to orient you guys to is the idea of these polarized ways, excuse me, this is live, not edited, polarized ways that we keep these thoughts and ideals in our mind, like like we're talking about how to achieve more potential. The idea that you're going to achieve more potential without failure, not going to happen, people. Not going to happen. You have to accept that failure is part of achieving your potential. And that is one of the main things that holds people back. People don't want to fail. People don't like failing. I'm not saying liking to fail, but I'm saying accepting that you have to fail. So Juan, you're spot on. Telling kids do or don't do, there's no try. It sets the kid up into like, well, what? What do you, how can I, this idea that you got to, what? I don't understand. Focus your kids on trying. Focus yourself on trying. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about ways to manage self-defeating thoughts. Okay. Let's talk about ways to handle those self-defeating thoughts that are within us. So the first thing I encourage a lot of my patient clients to do is to start practicing more mindfulness. And everyone's heard that mindfulness, this, mindfulness, that. I'm going to give you a quick abridged version of what mindfulness is. So there's two forms of mindfulness. There's mindfulness in the sense that we're going to all close our eyes, which is great, by the way, and we're going to be more conscious of the world around us. We're going to be more conscious of our breathing. Excellent exercise. I encourage everyone to meditate, to sit, to be more aware of themselves. Somebody once said all the ills of mankind can be summed up in man's, and not just man, and not being sexist, but man's inability to just sit and be still. So that's an excellent form of mindfulness. The higher form of, not higher, but another level of mindfulness is what we in the field call metacognition. Okay, so metacognition basically is, and this is I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. Did it come from Buddhism? I would imagine it came from Buddhism first, and then psychology picked it up. But metacognition is the idea of thinking about your thinking, being aware of your thinking. Mindfulness is a key component to achieving more potential, because mindfulness will tell you, well, not tell you, but will show you what's in my mind. What are the thoughts in my mind that are preventing me from doing this? Like starting a YouTube channel. Oh my God, I'm bald. Everyone's going to hate me. Why would anyone want to listen? What happens if I don't get a lot of viewers? What happens if it fails? What happens if? These are the thoughts you need to be aware of. But Dr. Steve, I don't want to think about my negative thoughts and emotions. I don't want to deal with that. La problema. That's the problem. Okay? Because the more you, right, Juan, like Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. Exactly. But people, we don't encourage that. We don't encourage people to think about their thinking. We're focusing on our phones. We're focusing on our bills. We're focusing on external things. Remember, external locus of control. We don't generally live in a culture that prides itself on the internal world, the world within. Why? Because people are afraid of that, man. People are afraid to be within themselves because they're worried they're going to go crazy, or they're going to find things they don't like, or they're going to lose their orientation to who they are. All I'm saying to you people is this, and I don't mean you people. I'm saying to you, comma, people, we need to work on that. We need to work on that internal world, because that is one of the main hindrances to hitting our potential, is identifying the fears, identifying what is holding me back, identifying what it is about success or failure that is affecting my ability to move forward. And some people say, well, I have a fear of success. And I've heard that. I get that idea that you could be afraid of success because that's going to mean you got to keep succeeding, or you're afraid of what that might bring, or you're afraid that that people are going to expect more and more out of you. I get there are multiple, but I think that's from my experience, people are much more affected by their fear of failure. Fear of failure is one of the main components to unfulfilled potential, because we are so conditioned in our culture to be afraid of negativity, to be afraid of pain. There's a reason we have an opioid epidemic in this country, people, and it's fear of pain. Okay? It's this idea that pain must be killed. Now, I'm not talking about people who live with clearly diagnosable chronic pain. I'm not talking about that. There are people who suffer greatly who can benefit from opioids. I get that. I'm not saying that. I am talking, remember a bell curve. So on a bell curve, you got the outliers out here coming up to the middle. Most of the people who are addicted to pharmaceuticals, especially painkillers, had pain, but they were told, not all of them, but a lot of them were told by their prescriber, oh, don't wait to feel the pain. Don't wait to feel the pain. Take this before you feel the pain. Absolutely the single most detrimental thing to tell somebody who has a pain experience that they have to go through. Don't feel the pain. That is the worst thing you can tell people. Why is that the worst thing you can tell people? They got no reference point. They have no reference point for how much pain they can tolerate. They have no reference point for how the pain will ebb and flow. They have no reference point to know where the pain is and when the pain ends. Okay? So we're not going to get into all that tonight, but that relates back to the fear, when you're not achieving your potential. People are afraid to experience pain, the pain of rejection, the pain of failure, the pain of realizing, oh, wow, maybe I can't achieve this. That is what prevents people from even venturing down that road. I relate a story of when I was younger. I went to Penn State and I was ready to graduate, and I think it was, I had one or three credits, some nominal credits, and I dropped out of school. I was like, screw this. I don't want this degree. So what did I do? I went back to live at home, much to my parents' love. And I went to cooking school for a year because I always thought I wanted to be a cook. I always loved cooking. I thought, wow, I'll be a cook. Went through the program, got about halfway through the program, 3/4 of the program. Guess what I found out? Don't want to be a cook. So I graduated, I finished the program, but never went back to cooking as a profession again. But guess what? Guess what I found out? Exactly. I'm 55 years old now, and I'm not wondering, I wonder if I could have been. No, I realized I didn't want to cook. Now, some people would look at that as, well, dude, you failed. Okay, I failed at being a cook. But guess what it taught me? Daddy doesn't want to be a cook. And so what I encourage everybody to do, if you're out there struggling with some sort of not reaching your potential, something that you're not achieving what you want, you got to expose yourself to it. There's a reason exposure therapy works, people. Remember, exposure therapy, if you have some sort of phobic response to something, let's say it's spiders or liberals or Republicans, whatever it may be, what somebody like me will help you do is to slowly therapeutically expose yourself to that feared stimulus in order to build up tolerance and frustration, tolerance and your ability to manage your reaction to it. Now, the key with exposure therapy, though, is you don't want to be flooded. You don't want to flood yourself too much so that you become overwhelmed. It's a slow process, okay? So I know I'm hitting on a bunch of topics, and I have a limited amount of time. I don't expect anyone to be, magically healed. All these live streams are about, people, is about trying to help you orient yourself to your internal world. Expose yourself to your thoughts and emotions so that you can work on them. so that you can become more aware of what psychological and emotional forces are going on within you that are causing you not to achieve these higher levels of whatever it may be, financial success, emotional success, psychological success, whatever success you want. I have one client who's struggling with, he's made so much good progress in getting himself out of multiple addictions, and he's on the right road, but he's got one more level, which is a fear he has of being in a relationship and finding somebody because of some self-esteem issues. And we're working through that. And I'm trying to slowly bring him along the lines that you've got to expose yourself to going on dates again. You've got to expose yourself to being intimate with women again in order to build up the ability to manage how you're going to react to that. Because, denial, as they say, is not just a river in Egypt, but denial is one of the main things that keeps multiple mental illnesses put together. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, well, obviously everybody knows that, but post-traumatic stress disorder, one of the key specifiers in there is denial of the stimulus that caused the trauma. I don't want to think about it, man. I don't want to think about it. Anything that you can say to yourself, I don't want to think about, that's what you should be thinking about, because potential is going to be affected by those dark emotions that are keeping you locked away into this world of, I can't do it. I mean, look at like an Elon Musk, obviously extremely successful, has done great things, started PayPal, sold that to eBay. Is it the other way around? No, yeah. And then parlay that into Tesla and all this. He's been open. He struggles with his emotions, his psychology. Why? Because, again, I would imagine there are things within him that he never really worked on that have caused him to be in a place where he's exposed to them and he can't handle it or he can't deal with it. That's why you see a lot of successful people who get addicted to different drugs, as Juan was talking about early on. So what I encourage anybody listening to any of these live streams is that you got to work on your issues, people. Everyone has issues, okay? Everyonehasissues.com is one of my websites. You've got to work on the stuff in your mind that is preventing you from feeling better, from feeling more balanced. And why? Because we stigmatize negative emotions. Negative emotion, something that we don't want to deal with. And as long as we have a culture where we're stigmatizing negative emotions, we're going to have the insanity we have. Just look at politically. Look at politically what is going on in this country. Look at the situation that happened in the Capitol the other day. Why? Because we have extremists pumping out information on both sides of the aisle. It's not just the right. It's not just the left. It's people believing that they have to be all or nothing. They can't allow themselves to entertain thoughts and emotions that are contrary to what they believe, okay? There was no widespread voter fraud that caused the election to be stolen. There isn't. Now, where there may be irregularities that happened because of the pandemic and all that, but there was no stolen election. Now, what happens when you believe that? Now everything becomes negative. Everything becomes this big conspiracy against you. Same thing on the left. There is no way people in this country are ever going to be fully left or fully right. We need to find some balance, people. We need to find some balance. We need to live more along the ideas of the yin yang, the idea of allowing positive and negative to coexist within us. But again, people don't like dealing with their negativity. People don't like even admitting that they have negativity. Oh, somebody told me today, all my friends are always telling me, just be positive and just focus on the positive. It's a good message, but it's 50% of the message, okay? You got to focus on the negative. You got to focus on things within you that are causing you to hold yourself back. So to sum up, please, if you want to achieve more potential, You have to get into those negative thoughts and emotions that are holding you back. You've got to get into what it is within you that you're afraid to face. And a lot of times, people, you will absolutely trace it back to, oh yeah, oh yeah. I had a client today, highly successful individual, way more financially successful than me in many ways. But what did he say? What did he say? Cut out from YouTube, Diego's saying. That's weird. I don't know why that would happen. But what he said to me today, he's a fixer. And he said, that's my personality. That's who I am. And I gently tried to bring him back around to, my brother, you learned to be a fixer. You learned that you needed to fix everything. You learn that. All right, Diego, thanks, man. I'm glad you're back on. So we need to work on the conditioning that tells us I'm this. Remember, if I'm a racist, which would be funny because I have a lot of ethnicities in me, but let's say I'm a racist and I believe all black people or all white people suck. I'm going to identify that. I'm going to identify with that as my self-identity until I begin realizing, well, wait a minute. Where did I learn that? Where did I learn that all black people or all white people suck or whatever, green people, Jews, Christians, Muslim, whatever we're hating? No born racist, people. And you know what else we're not born? We're not born being afraid of failure. We're not born being afraid of achieving our potential or whatever holds us back. It's conditioning. And a lot of times we're not working on that conditioning. We're not working on it because we live in a culture and a society that doesn't promote that. Drink it away, shop it away, fight it away, whatever it away, but don't focus on it. Don't focus on it. Got to focus on it. Okay. So thank you for joining me. Remember, the new times now are Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. West Coast, 7 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Central, and 9 p.m. East Coast. Please tell people about this. Please join the Facebook page that we have. I post a lot of things on there. We get a lot of good discussions going. If you're catching this on YouTube, please check out some of the other videos on there. I've got videos on there going back 5 years now that I did initially and then had to take some time off. Please, if you're also on YouTube, like and subscribe to the Facebook page. And the reason I'm trying to do this is because YouTube has this algorithm that people with more subscribers, their videos get up there more. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you're helping people work on their mental health, because the more people type in whatever, depression, whatever, if we have a lot of subscribers, our videos will be pumped to the top. So please get on there and do what you can. Here's my website. If anybody ever wants to reach me, feel free to do that. But thank you for, and again, if anybody ever wants to be on the show and be interviewed, you've seen me interview some people in the past. This is, don't worry, this comes straight to me. There's no spamming or whatever. Shoot me a text and we'll do a pre-interview and see what we can pull together for an interview, because a lot of people find it very interesting to hear other people say, wow, I'm not the only one struggling with that. So yeah. So again, I'll see you next Tuesday. Shoot me comments on YouTube, on Facebook. If you come at me like an ass, there's a good chance I'm going to come at you. If you come at me, with respect, as I try to give everyone I meet, we can engage. But please remember, you gotta work on your mental health, people. You gotta deal with those dark emotions, those scary, dangerous, fearful emotions. I'm not saying jump into the pool and all, but you gotta start saying, yeah, I got some issues. I gotta deal with that. And that is what's preventing me from achieving my potential. Potential and unfulfilled potential is directly related to conditioning, stuff within us that we haven't dealt with. Okay. So thank you everyone for logging on. Please share this on your timeline. Talk about it more. Be proud of the fact that you're working on your mental health. Think about it. If more people were working on their mental illness, their mental health, remember I did that show on mental illness. Mental illness is anything in our mind, our emotions and thoughts that are causing us pain or causing people around us pain, just like a physical illness. What does a physical illness do? It causes us pain, it makes us feel sick, it brings us down. Same thing with mental illness. If we were all working on our mental illness more, we would have a totally different society. We would have people going, now, wait a minute, okay, is it really possible that the Democrats are a band of devil worshiping, baby molesting, blood drinking? Is that really possible? I mean, is it possible? It may be possible, but is it probable? We need to question the legitimacy of these extreme beliefs we have. And if you're being held back by extreme beliefs about perfectionism or success, you got to deal with that, because there's a whole world waiting for you out there of being able to manage that negativity and allow the positivity and the negativity to coexist. But that takes work. That takes admitting that there's negativity. That takes admitting that you've got issues, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? All right, people, I'll see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. In the meantime, reach out to me through my website, shoot me a text, or give me a call, or shoot me an email. I'm always available. I try to make myself as available as possible to people because I genuinely love what I do. And I see so many good people struggling needlessly with these emotional wounds that can be healed. But yes, it takes work. Okay? All right, guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you on the next next week, and we'll have some guests or some interesting things to talk about. So thank you for logging on. I appreciate all your support. I appreciate everybody who subscribes to the YouTube channel. Please, if you're watching this, please subscribe there, because that is going to help us get the message out that there's nothing wrong with having a degree of mental illness. Everyone has it, but we need to work on it. All right, guys. Take it easy. Peace out. Thanks for all the questions. And Juan, not too much tequila. Okay, brother?